Ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you've been enjoying your day 2 here at QuakeCon 2023. I'm DJ Wheat, joined by ZSX and Flea. And gentlemen, we've got 2 more matches left here on the main stage. This one, CHA1N versus ZENAKU. We're going to get to see CHA1N's potential lower bracket run with the rate that things are going, because the winner of this matchup will go up versus Maxter immediately following.
Yeah, that is some level of fitness you need to be there, mental and physical.
Yep.
And, you know, that was a taxing series. Yes, he won 2-0, but don't put anything against how intense that was mentally for him. And, you know, even not a long break we just had, and he's already back on stage going up against an opponent who's got some momentum behind him as well.
I mean, it's so grueling, and it also really factors into the coming day, right? Like, if you just won your first 2 games, that's it, right? Win-win, up, you're into the next day, the finals day. If you don't, just look at what CHA1N has to push himself through just to have a shot at making it into the next day.
But
He's
you know what?
Zen,
I kind of think CHA1N wants to be there. I think he's kind of cool playing.
I mean, you want to be there rather than not, right? That means he's won his matches. But
of course, but you know what I'm saying. Like, he just kind of seemed like,
100%.
Keep stacking them up.
There's different players, there's different momentums, and sometimes you can just get ahead of steam, right? You begin to fit. If you feel the game, you feel the flow, as he clearly was in the last game. You can carry that through. And I think CHA1N has to pray that's exactly what happens, right? He said that's the best he's played so far, and that's a really good sign if he's building his way into the tournament. But he's also going up against an opponent that is just a different level and a different beast altogether, like in more ways than one, in ZENAKU. And he's going to have to take not only that combat skill that we saw, but he has to add more layers to the game in order to beat ZENAKU, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, ZENAKU so far, he's only lost to Razy. He's beaten Saigib, he's beaten Sparty, bringing him over here. I mean, losing to Razy, there's absolutely no shame in that.
Right.
So let's see whether or not CHA1N has got what it takes to prevail.
Yeah, I mean, I think ZENAKU is, right, he's someone who wants this just as much as CHA1N does.
Yeah.
And it will be interesting to see exactly how these two will go at it. And I think one of the hardest things is, obviously, CHA1N's got some back-to-back matches, but he's also got 2 completely different opponents compared to what he's played against in the matchup versus Strong Stage. So it just, that layer of adaptability has to be thrown into CHA1N's play, because there's not, like you said, the game just ended, right?
Exactly.
Switch things up and potentially, you know, get in the right mindset to go up against a player like ZENAKU.
Yeah, different style, different strategy, and different needs. And what he won't find in this matchup, I believe, is as many overcommittals, as many mistakes as Strong Stage made, right? That Strong Stage did a lot of good things, but what he didn't do great is always understand when to attack, and that's when he was punished by CHA1N.
Right.
Even when Strong Stage did attack at the right time, I feel like he took a lot of unnecessary risks. He would push in, he would pin his opponent up against the wall with rockets, and what does he do? Switch to the railgun for the kill shot when his opponent is at like 50 points of health, right? That is such a risky play. Yes, it worked out plenty of times, but there were also times that it didn't. And ZENAKU is not going to go for those risks. I can guarantee you that.
Well, let's take a look at the picks and bans, because we've been seeing some interesting ones all day. Not sure if that story is going to continue here, but we've got them on screen. Awoken will be our first matchup. Then we're going on to Keep, and then finishing things off with Blood Covenant, should we go there. Who wants to take a look at these champs and break them down?
Honestly, there isn't really too much to write home about, so I'm just going to concentrate on the one that is a little bit more unusual, which is Blood Covenant with the Galena. Once again, you just lack the mobility, right? We've seen Visors on there, and these other champions just have no capability to play the map effectively, and they've all struggled, and ZENAKU has a Doom. So that's the big one for me. The only other one I'll concentrate on, and then I guess, Flea, you can jump in, is Anarchy.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Straight up off Awoken, and it's a preference pick for CHA1N. I think he felt it really, he played it really well on Molten last time. He could have picked, you know, Ranger, he could have picked Strog, he could have picked many things, but he settled for the Anarchy, and it works really well against Nyx. If you connect him with the rail, you can follow up, you have the speed and the inject, you can punish her. Are we going to see that from CHA1N today?
That remains to be seen, right? Because it's definitely, it's not an easy map to play Anarchy well on, right? Awoken, there's plenty of like the bounce pads that will kill your momentum, right? So even though you have the air control, it's not the easiest map to maneuver on. Now, looking at Blood Covenant, I also feel like this is a bit of a throwback, because the squishies, the small light champions on Blood Covenant, that wasn't always the meta, right? Towards the beginning of Quake Champions, it was really Galena was meta on there. Doom, Ranger, Visor, those were the champions that were picked most often. And then we kind of saw, you know, balance changes being made, and now it's predominantly the light champions, Athena, Nyx, Slash, that we see on Blood Covenant. So this, in my opinion, is really a bit of a throwback to those early days.
Yeah, I mean, we can't forget either that this is an elimination matchup, right? Tournament lives on the line. It puts a little bit more pressure on the shoulder of both players because no one is safe here, and they've both had a really phenomenal run, right, throughout this tournament. One of them, though, will continue. Unfortunately, one will go home.
And if I just look at this on the surface, I would rather be in ZENAKU's shoes. I just feel that in this setting, this high-pressured, staked environment, you want the champions that inevitably will give you a safer and easier execution of your strategy, right? And with all the great things that CHA1N has, one of them, in my opinion, isn't the ability to press the advantage. And so what I would want is to fall back and feel very comfortable just to play the map.
Right.
And then CHA1N will settle into that rhythm too, right? And it gives you a little bit more breathing space as a player. So I'm actually feeling really confident with what I've seen from ZENAKU.
Yeah, same. I think that the picks and bans are really good for him. That's not to say that CHA1N has bad picks, right?
No,
by any measure.
no.
Right.
No, like if we look at map 1, Nyx, I think, is by far the S tier pick for Awoken, right? You either want a banner or you want a player when Awoken's out there. And then on the final map, like you said, I'm also favoring the Doomslayer with the mobility on the map that is Blood Covenant. So on map 1 and 3 already, I am favoring ZENAKU. And then map 2, yeah, Corrupted Keep, Ranger versus Strong. It's one of the most classic matchups there is right now, right? Ranger's got the orb, he's got the mobility, so many neat tricks you can do. Drop onto Mega, throw the orb towards Heavy, get them both. On the other hand, Strong, really powerful as well. There's no railgun on Corrupted Keep, and that makes that Peeker so much more difficult to kill.
So we're in a situation here, I don't know, any predictions, anything you want to throw out here? Tough one to call.
It is a really tough one to call. I just want to think about the maps. I just prefer having that second map as Keep. I much more favor ZENAKU on that with his play style. So it's really difficult. I'm going to side with ZENAKU, and I'm actually going to go 2-0.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to side with ZENAKU as well. I'm also more inclined to say 2-0. Also, looking back at their match history, they've played each other 8 times, perfectly split down the middle, 4 wins for ZENAKU, 4 for CHA1N. But the most recent 4 have all been ZENAKU. So the past couple of years, it's been the Australian every single time. So I'm also going to favor ZENAKU, 2-0, 2-1. I could see CHA1N do really well on this map if he can do what Dan described earlier, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Well, we're about to load into our first map. In fact, it looks like we are in. Flea will join us when this one is over. But we're getting started here for our second to last matchup of the day. The winner of this will go on to face Maxter.
And we are starting over on CHA1N's POV. He has the Anarchy, he has the Inject, which he decided not to use. He wants to save it, but he doesn't have a rail. So he's going to have to play around that deficiency at the moment. We can see ZENAKU is up on that T-Con at the moment. Just trying to use the information, the audio cues to work out CHA1N. He's feeling fairly free at the moment, considering there's no rail in his opponent's hands. We just play a little bit more laissez-faire. And he's going to pressure in as well. With that Ghost Walk, he is feeling happy. Perfect timing. Rocket jump away. He knows he can keep control of the map. And already ZENAKU has got both major items.
That's a good place to be. Starting things off. I don't know what to say, but some good LG damage coming out there, but not enough to stop that first frag coming in from ZENAKU. And, you know, control is definitely going to be a big aspect of this particular map. And I think that CHA1N's going to want to play that kind of slower, more meticulous game. I actually believe, though, that ZENAKU is capable of maybe turning it up a little bit. Not, say, like a level of Strong Sage, but...
that's the kind of aggression meter we have now.
Yeah.
Is it
Strong Sage aggression? Or... so, right, only one frag in, still a lot to go. Oh, there's a Ghost Walk. He's on the trail.
CHA1N knows it. He turns around right in time just to hold that. But big rockets coming out to double the lead.
Yeah, I mean, both these players going through their lower bracket journey. Another good catch with the LG by ZENAKU. In fact, a double back on that one. And that is an incredibly low CHA1N running away with no inject for quite a while.
Yeah, he delayed to pick up that heavy, which is why I tensed up for a second as he dropped down just as Zen came around the corner to try and connect that rail. Not to be, so CHA1N has a brief moment of pause to try and stabilize, but ZENAKU patrolling that mid-ground again. And this is one of the challenges of Anarchy. You can run rings around the map, but if you can't get up to that mid-level, it's really difficult to pressure.
Yeah, I mean, that's the story of this particular map right here. You know, just trying to control that middle area. CHA1N LG down yet again, and ZENAKU not able to follow up with those rails, but some tri-bolt through the hole, and now the Ghost Walk coming out, and slow and steady. 2 minutes, 30 seconds in.
Yeah, and both these players will respect one another's position. If they don't feel it's the right fight for them, and that's what we've seen from ZENAKU earlier as well, he won't take it. He wants to manufacture a fight that is fairly risk-free, give him the highest percentages in terms of success. Equally, CHA1N just prefers to play these angles. He prefers to play stable and slow, and wants to bait his opponent into his traps and into these choke points. So it's discipline versus discipline in different ways.
Wall jump coming in big, though. I think like giving him an opportunity to maybe keep CHA1N guessing exactly where he might be.
Yeah. He's also holding onto the inject consistently.
Yeah.
He's using it only as and when he needs it. He's not trying to be ultra aggressive to make sure he's building that stack. It's purely a competitive combat resource.
Interesting. Decided to drop back, go through that teleporter. Thought he was going to go for the rail shot, but like you said, CHA1N likes to play that angle game, just waiting for his opponent to walk into the crosshairs. Is not going to let him do that at all. ZENAKU just keeping his 2-0 score safe at this point.
Yeah, CHA1N's ready. He's got the Ghost Walk up. He does take the Mega away with a big rocket on the drop down, connecting full on ZENAKU, and that lead has already been halved. Heavy is up. CHA1N is there. He's also popped the inject for a little bit of extra and just trying to get himself across, but lovely play coming out of CHA1N, and he's whizzing himself around, avoiding that jump pad, and he knows there's no Ghost Walk up. Wheat, sorry.
That's okay. You know, we do look a lot alike, right? All that gray hair Flea has.
You're both just tall.
And CHA1N takes the lead, right? Like, I mean, that's how easy it can happen. CHA1N doesn't panic. He waits for those opportunities, those shots. Ooh, big rocket coming in, but the rail. And there's a man who is confident with his rail right now. You know, he said, listen, you just got to play good if you're going to, you know, if you're going to win. He's got to feel it, and maybe CHA1N's feeling it right now. ZENAKU had such a strong start, CSX, but 5 minutes in, there he goes, brings it back. He needed to stop that momentum. CHA1N was starting to run a little bit.
And then, yeah, you all just saw the power and the speed that I think he can bring if he gets momentum. It's hard to build that, but it is there, and you could snowball. And this is what we talked about, the power of the Anarchy against the Knicks. When the Ghost Walk's not up, you can rack up those frags, and it went from a 0-frag game to a 5-frag game for CHA1N very, very quickly. And ZENAKU has to be wary of that now. He has to respect that, because CHA1N has also shown how powerful he can be when he is aggressing.
Yeah, you want to watch out for sure. I think CHA1N also knows exactly how to convert a frag. So, right, you give one up, and there's a really good chance he's going to be able to follow up with one just based off of how he is kind of playing right now. So,
well, the decision-making's there, but it's also been the execution. That's been the criticism in league play, right? We'd see CHA1N do all these amazing things and just fluff the shots. That's what he's not doing here. He is connecting.
Yeah. And that makes such a huge difference, obviously.
Yeah, FPS, you have to hit your shots.
You have to hit your shots. You can't just hurl insults at your opponent and hope to get a frag. So 5-3, less than 4 minutes left to go. And I wouldn't be surprised to see CHA1N actually go into a similar mode that he was in during the second map of versus Strong Sage, where he decided at about the 6-minute mark, I'm just going to run for the final 3 minutes. I'm just going to protect this like it is a fragile egg that will fall and expose its yolk.
Yeah, I would agree, but I also would not like to see that. I think Awoken is a difficult map.
I agree.
Yeah,
it's a risky game to play. It can work. We saw it work earlier.
Sure.
But I think you gotta Chain's pretty good at playing, as you kind of said the other in the last matches, to his opponent and not to the map.
Yep.
Which is sometimes on the map you can start to go, oh, I can just run for a little bit, but I don't think he can do that, especially when you got someone who can just ghost walk in, surprise you. Ooh, that's a big kill. What?
How low was he?
32? Was he even lower?
I don't know if he picked up a bubble, but he definitely picked up the heavy, and that was the thing. He had the stack there, and Chain felt confident without the armor to fall back on. That was a deciding factor, but I agree. It looked like a Chain kill for sure. Huge rocket coming out, but the Ramit once again up on the jump pad here. Chain's got the inject if he wants to chase. There's still no ghost walk up for ZENAKU, but Chain is satisfied with the lead and satisfied with the heavy armor for his troubles. And just as we were talking about it, he has begun to play his opponent a little bit more than we had seen in the opening engagements, not contesting for the items as much, but he is contesting for this Mega. He plays keep away again. He knows he's got an inject if he wants to take the fight, but he doesn't. He just wants to try and find an angle on the exit, but they trade.
That was actually a great read by ZENAKU there. Chain knew what he was up against, but again, trying to look for that shot, similar shot he's made in other matches to find that. In fact, that's the one shot, except a reverse, that he won that game versus Strong Sage. Just waiting for it. He was much lower, hit that perfect rail.
And they keep trading. That's keeping ZENAKU in this game, as you said. Like, all these creative angles that Chain is finding, he's being met with resistance from ZENAKU, and that is why we have this one frag game with just 1.5 minutes to go. ZENAKU obviously on the hunt to try and tie us up, to push us towards an overtime at the very least.
Yeah. And that, based off of how Chain played, he's not going to, I don't think he's going to show himself. Actually, throws out a rail.
No, he's playing the distance game. He's making his presence felt enough where ZENAKU can't just rotate items. He has to be careful. That buys a little bit of time. It puts his mental state under a little bit of pressure, and he has to just be conscious of his opponent. But with 1 minute to go, this is where it happens. This is what you said will happen. Let's play.
Yep.
Run away.
Cat and mouse. Here it goes. And the mouse is running away. One frag lead. That's all you need in order to walk away. Chain's still trying to get some hits in. And honestly, Chain hits those rails, and it's devastating for ZENAKU. He has to keep this stack in order to give himself a chance. Has to try to catch one of those rails himself. And this is where every second that ticks away, the pressure of knowing that you've got to land that frag grows and grows. Less than 30 seconds now.
But he has a ghost walk, and that is the only saving grace that he could use if he uses it perfectly. What that requires is the timing, the read, the knowledge, and the execution. All of the stars have to align to hit this in 10 seconds, and there it goes. He used the ghost walk. He's spotted from behind, but the rocket jump is there, and what can ZENAKU pull out on the chase? He's finding him. He's getting there. 3 seconds, but it's not going to be as Chain uses that control to play out the map.
It is, right, this is a style of Quake. You get that lead. You protect that lead. And we've seen it, we've talked about things that go right and wrong today, according to that. We've seen a lot of things go right. That's one of those things where sometimes you can choose to get a little defensive, a little early, and then you're surprised, especially with the potential like Ghost Walk, and then it can all kind of fall apart. I think the big difference is that even though in that situation Chain was playing a little bit more defensive, he was still peaking those shots.
Exactly.
And right, every single time a little bit of damage comes off, it means that ZENAKU's got a second guess and like, oh, do I go in for it?
And the way I like to describe that is the difference between being defensive and being passive, right? When you're passive, you play the corridors, you play hide and seek, and that invites pressure because it allows your opponent freedom of the map. Not only can they take the items, they can then take the position to capitalize upon that. But what Chain was doing in that defensive play was he was keeping ZENAKU second guessing, and that also meant ZENAKU was not able to take the attack positions he wanted to. He had to go a different route, which forced him into an angle that Chain wanted him to. He was basically funneling ZENAKU around the map to an angle he wanted to take it on.
Yeah. And you could really see that in kind of his own pathing, where he was going. He knew that ZENAKU had that wall jump. It could get it, but it didn't really throw him off at all. He still made some pretty good reads. ZENAKU had a few of his own, but it does take some really incredible skill to kind of be able to play around that and then still hit those shots. So,
and that's exactly why everyone says it's a game of chess, because it's all about moving the pieces, moving your opponent to where you want them. And all that things considered, one of the fundamental things I was really impressed with in that match was something I've always criticized CHA1N for. What? Not following up, not going in for the kill, going for the throat. He racked up 3, 4, 5 frags just from constant pressure.
Right.
And I haven't seen that from CHA1N before, right? He said he does it, but that's one of the first times I've really seen him take a match, make it his own, but then he has that fallback of a defensive play, his more natural style, in my opinion, to fall back on.
Now, it was rails and rockets that allowed him to play the way that you just described right there. Corrupted keeps a little bit different, right, because we're going to eliminate rail from that equation. But we also have CHA1N on the Ranger and ZENAKU on the Strogg. A very interesting matchup, but hard to believe that right in one game that quickly, CHA1N's just kind of knocking him down and looking to potentially move on and face Maxter.
I feel more confident when I watch ZENAKU on medium and heavy champions. I think it suits his style more, where he can be a bit more bullish. He can play into these choke points. He can play onto the items and just be a bit more present. When he's on the Nyx, I don't think that fits his style as well. Whereas this now, he's on that Strogg, he can be more bullish, and this is definitely a map that suits him. On the flip side, we've seen CHA1N, his defensive rockets in particular have been standout, and that is obviously a conscious threat on Corrupted Keep.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We've seen it ruin lives before. Just coming through a door, rocket to the face. You know, Tri-Bolt also, seen some great games today where Tri-Bolt was a huge deciding factor. And so some utility there, right? When you don't have the same thing, you can replace it with other things. So we'll see how CHA1N's going to be able to do that. And ZENAKU, you know, needs to win this to keep his tournament life alive.
Wow, and CHA1N's matching him toe-to-toe with the LG as well, bullying him out of that room. Items. Oh, there's one of those rockets we were talking about. That's opening the door for CHA1N. He comes jumping on through, but the Pika did just enough to give moment for thought for CHA1N. He does retreat and wants to reset onto the major items. As I say that, he's in the vicinity up above. ZENAKU trying to do something. He has that orb, and we know how powerful that can be.
Some just really great rocket reads right there. Could have yielded a little bit more damage, but he's getting what he can. And so far, kind of like how CHA1N is approaching this one. ZENAKU, though, a little bit more active on the map. But again, the way CHA1N's playing, he doesn't necessarily need to be, as long as he is hitting some of those defensive shots. So only a minute 30 in, still 0-0. And I almost wonder if ZENAKU is maybe even slowed down a little bit, considering that.
Yeah, that rocket to the teeth definitely halted a bit of his momentum, but
I mean, but in general, right? Suddenly your tournament life here at QuakeCon's kind of on the line.
That's fair. All things considered, there's not been a lot of action, but there's been a lot of important factors in terms of posturing and positioning and fighting for control. And it feels now like ZENAKU has shifted that balance. You can see CHA1N having to retreat, tail within his legs into this banana area where he just has no real get-out clause except an orb.
Interesting little rocket jump fake there. He's going to actually double back and grab that. And even goes in for that mega. Might be in a great spot. Will take full control of the map. And again,
yeah, that was ZENAKU's map, and it went away. CHA1N just using the orb to distract and try and get out. The chip damage from ZENAKU slightly better, but CHA1N obviously took both those major items. There's more of a beefy stack to eat through. Oh, and there we go. He pushes on. He knows he's got the stack advantage, and that's all he needs, an opening.
That's right.
Decision-making is spot on.
And now he's going to go in rocket. Oh, but does a trade. And that's going to make it 0-0 yet again. So just erase it all and start over 2 minutes and 50 seconds into this matchup. For ZENAKU, that actually worked out quite nicely. Just to get a reset, stop that momentum. There was that, you know, just prior to that, CHA1N had picked up both major items. So
did he just get smacked by a direct? Look, more or less like a direct, but anyway.
Looked like it.
ZENAKU putting more emphasis at the moment on trying to control the resources. He had CHA1N in the boneyard, but decided to plus back. And look, he's taken both lights and both majors, so he's playing that long game.
Yeah.
He now knows he can take these mid to long range fights. He doesn't want to play close range because that can be messy, but he wants that consistent long range damage because that, you know, he has the stack for.
Heavy picked up. ZENAKU's got to be feeling a little bit better now with this control. He's going to be able to drop back, easily pick up that Mega. He's got the timings, and the separation between the two items is actually sitting pretty good here. As long as ZENAKU can keep this rotation up. The pressure, though, he continues to put on here as CHA1N is trying to figure out a way out of this back hallway. Caught again. Nice LG damage to open things up. CHA1N is hurting. But what's your chase right there?
Oh, he's gone for the light, but he knows there's no orb. This will be a practice question. How messy is it? No!
Again.
3 directs from CHA1N. Shuts down ZENAKU and they trade. I
really feel like ZENAKU should have had that. He read it nicely. I don't know. I mean, CHA1N did say, and look, I'm not saying this right now, but CHA1N said, you know what? I've actually gotten pretty lucky a few times, right? And I'm like, well, I've seen a couple times, although it was a trade, right? So, but that could end up pretty bad, right? The last trade was pretty good for ZENAKU. That trade was pretty good for CHA1N.
Well, basically what you said is I really think ZENAKU shouldn't have let him hit 3 directs in that room because you know, that's all that happened.
Maybe.
But anyway, he's keeping the pressure on, and CHA1N, yes, he got an item, but he hasn't got health to go with it.
Now this is danger right here. Oh,
but it doesn't matter. Yeah, but now CHA1N spawns and he can keep this pressure on. Here he is. Hello, here's CHA1N, and I will refrag you.
That defensive rocket was the difference between tying it back up and then letting ZENAKU run away with 2 or 3 more frags.
Yeah, he's got to get out of hit dodge now because the Mega's there and ZENAKU knows the timings. They have a decent enough split where he can pressure both, but it's so risky for ZENAKU, and I can tell you this is eating away him mentally, right? Every time he's trying to kill an opponent, which should be an easy frag to your point, he's coming off at least licking his wounds, if not trading.
Right.
And that really hurts. It's like, well, what am I meant to do now? I'm doing everything right. And the game plan's there. In my mind, keep doing it, but just, again, try and get more and more and more chip damage, more and more pressure where he can't get 2 rockets. He can only get 1 before he dies. That's the pressure he needs to build.
That was a nice little orb to just grab that Mega and get out. Just continuing to kind of mix it up a little bit. Has been holding on to it for a hot minute. ZENAKU obviously with a pretty nice armor stack that he's happy with. Peeker comes out, some damage does come out. Ooh, some more damage than I think CHA1N was expecting to take.
Yeah, and he's a little bit stuck here. No orb in play, 10 seconds to go. He wants ZENAKU to push in, and you can see how worried ZENAKU is about that. He's more worried about taking the items cleanly and keeping this scoreline at a 1-to-1 and giving up that control.
CHA1N right now playing to potentially advance. ZENAKU playing to save his tournament life now and forcing it to a 3rd and final map. That would be Blood Covenant, which is the Galena for CHA1N versus the Doom for ZENAKU. I know they're not thinking that far ahead, but with 1-1, anything can still happen. 3 minutes and 8 seconds remaining. Ooh. Another big rocket. The Peeker does do some damage. That's very risky. Going for it. Misses that orb. Tries to smack him right in the face, but ZENAKU manages to get away. Has a little bit of an armor stack. There, that light came back in red room. Oh.
Not again. CHA1N has to get out this
I was going to say, not again.
So close to being again, though. All things considered, another rocket whizzes by. And again, lucky struck his ball because one of them would have hit his hair. He gets out, but look at the HP of CHA1N. This time, he didn't get lucky. He wasn't able to connect with what had been a frag earlier on. And this is where the pressure can build now. He's got nothing to work with. Living without even any rocket ammo, has to make his way across the map to pick that up.
Don't click. Don't click. All right, he's trying to figure it out here. This is not in the greatest spot. I mean, yeah, he really needs that. Is he going to take it? He does. Oh, my.
What a juke. What a juke. Presence of mind, and ZENAKU still can't lock him down. CHA1N rocket jumping out, and ZENAKU It's building, right? It's building. At this point, it's going to be Miracle Rockets that's going to keep him in this game because he doesn't have anything else
100%.
to work with.
But ZENAKU's stack has been growing a little bit. You know, it's going to put him in a better spot should he force out a fight. The orb is down right now, but back up in 5 seconds.
105 with the tri-bolt. That
and it
resets.
stops. Yes, it stops any sort of, you know, rush advantage that ZENAKU might have.
That's more than a direct. It resets the whole balance. Yes, Chain cannot pressure, but look, now he's got composure to actually be out on the map. 30 seconds ago, he wouldn't be here, and ZENAKU has to take the long way around, and now he's stuck. Small things like that make such a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, I got to take a look at the damage really quick. Just
another 100. ZENAKU has to retreat. Pika comes out. Chain's going to win himself. He actually goes on and he catches ZENAKU with his pants literally down. And he loses out on the Mega, and ZENAKU now 1 minute to keep himself in this tournament.
Yeah, big opportunity right here. ZENAKU so low, he took that machine gun damage. Oh, barely misses that LG. And Chain just seeing, can I clean it up? And he can't. It didn't happen.
No, and there's nothing up for either one of these players now as Chain.
I mean, at least he disrupted the control that ZENAKU had.
Sure, but now ZENAKU is afraid to do anything, right? Chain is the one in momentum. Chain is the one prowling the map. ZENAKU's early. He's going to take not the biggest of rockets, but enough, and he's going to make his way around to the heavy. He desperately wants to wrangle back control, and Chain is going to let him. He has the orb. And a huge rocket again!
Oh my God.
To stop that pickup, and ZENAKU's going up for the kill.
Went up the jump pad, now trying to juke around his opponent. Avoids that rocket. Peeker does come out and instantly goes down. 8 seconds remaining. Is it going to go to overtime? Mega is going to be up.
ZENAKU's there. He's got the timing. He's got the orb. He's blown it up, and ZENAKU!
Oh my God. Oh my gosh. What a risky play that was to just try to close it out. I kind of get it.
He felt he had the momentum and the stack, but I think it was half a second mistiming. ZENAKU took the Mega. The orb then didn't kill his opponent, right? It was the right play with the slightest of missteps on execution. And it's one of those we saw in the strong stage set, right? The opportunity was there. I'm going to try and play to win. And he hadn't done anything like that all set, so he was hoping it was going to catch ZENAKU off guard. It shows you the margins these guys are playing up.
Yeah, I want to see that one again. We're going to get to see all the frags. There was not too many. But don't forget, we had quite a few trades coming out there.
Right.
There's one of them.
Just the rockets. All the rockets. Look at this.
Oh, that one is
3.
just...
Jesus.
You know.
And there's another 2 that's just nullified the momentum, and it's constant rocket damage coming out from Chain.
And here it is. Drops down, orb, bounce, bounce. That was well played by ZENAKU, right?
I'm pretty sure Zen got the Mega, and he lasted with 104 HP. So he effectively would have had 4 HP or around that.
Right.
So that was what Chain was banking on, just slight mistime.
Just had that perfect bounce and allowed him to win that 2-1. Are you surprised by how low scoring that was? Or again, right? This isn't just a normal regular season match. This is a
I'm not, right? If you look at that scoreline in context, it feels like it was low action, low to hiding. That could have been a 10-10 game, right? They were all playing on the edge to win. The amount of trades that they were getting out with virtually no HP, it was just played so well that they could not get their frags.
And now we're in a situation going on to Blood Covenant, Galena for Chain, and ZENAKU on the Doomslayer. Definitely a lot different Blood Covenant game than we've been seeing most of the game, and even most of the season a little bit.
Yeah.
Not saying this situation doesn't happen, but gosh, we've been seeing so much speedy, light action on Blood Covenant these days. So how do you think this one plays out, right? It's a little bit larger map, not as many opportunities, I don't feel, for Chain to necessarily play that super defensive way, but it is possible.
I mean, maybe Chain pulls some old school Quake champion strats out, right? And the one thing about Blood Covenant, or with the Galena, is because it is so big, and particularly as a Doom and with these mobility champions, you want to be high, right? So if the Galena, you end up being low ground with the tunnels and the like kind of lots of low ground areas where you're not going to be scouting out as a Doom, there's the potential for you to get that overstack that you can rely on. You know, it's a riskier strategy. You don't. Do
you think that's key to his victory?
No. I don't.
Okay.
I think it's nice to have, and if it happens, it generally means you're being under too much pressure where you can't get out on the map. I don't think you build your pick a Galena and go, this is how I'm going to play, because that's not what you want to do. But on the flip side, it's just he needs to get the rail, and he needs to try and assert himself probably on the mega side of the map where he's a little bit more contained, a little bit more protected. And as we've seen all series long, if he can begin to chip away at Doom, then he can keep in this game. But as with anything, position is key. The Doom offers that. And if I'm honest, I think ZENAKU plays the best Doom in the world. He uses the ability perfectly.
I wonder if there's going to be a heavy emphasis on just like trying to keep that rail out. I know that can't always happen. A lot of it depends on spawns, but let's see. This Chain got probably...
Well, he didn't drop the totem straight where he spawned. Instead, he uses it as kind of more information up on the jump pad, a little bit of damage. I would have maybe thought he would have put it in that hallway where ZENAKU's probably never going to go. But anyway, huge amounts of damage from Chain on that heavy machine gun. ZENAKU eating a lot of that. And he does have himself a rail. So maybe in the game plan week, where he doesn't want to forfeit that side of the map, he doesn't even want to give Chain the rail.
Yeah, it's going to be easier said than done, but it's, you know, he can at least have some comfort knowing there's not a whole lot of movement options for that Galena to get up there. So I'm really curious how he's going to play this one out. There's an open mega, and still no rail over for Chain.
No. Chain hasn't risked the rocket jump across yet. ZENAKU's obviously in the vicinity at the moment, protecting that. The heavy is still up. With ZENAKU there, Chain doesn't want to drop, and he's actually going to have to give that up. And this is the power of mobility. Chain just could not get across, could not get the weapons he needs.
Wow. I thought he's going to clean that up. I like that. You mentioned ZENAKU showing some good skills and displays of kind of like unique ways to play. And he's doing that with Doom right now.
He's trying to close him down, but he's not to be again. Rocket's not as good this time, chipping away, keeping ZENAKU at bay, but we already have a massive split on these major items. And Chain is off the map. This is the worry for the Galena. One mega all fight long, well, all game long, should I say. He's in position for the next one. Can he stick it out?
He still has not picked up a rail. Mega is up. He's got to now. Yeah. He knows. He saw it. Yep.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm done doing this. But that was almost 2 minutes without a rail.
Yeah, and in exchange for that, he's given up map control. He had to wait to see the Doom movement towards the Mega. By that point, he could feel confident. And because he's out of control, you can see instantly he retreats and goes, right, maybe it's time for me to get that overstack. Maybe I should try this as a strategy because I'm not being successful on staying on my high ground position.
Risky going up that jump pad. Huge. Oh, nice rocket bounce.
Did he rocket jump up the jump pad? He took so much height.
Yeah.
That was, if he did, that was so smart.
Yeah, and Chain came in for it. Put him in a nice spot. Well, let's see. One on the board for ZENAKU. And probably the first time, actually, that he's outside of that second game, right? Seen himself in the lead.
Yeah, big rocket from Chain. That gets him back into this. And he's got the rail as well. Lovely little angle, cute, but ZENAKU spots him up there.
I'm just expecting, right, one of those volleys to hit. It really opens up a lot of possibilities, but so far Chain's done a pretty great job of just avoiding a lot of that long-range damage. I mean, how, honestly, what even is ZENAKU's rail shot right now? He's only 14% rail. Not exactly accuracy I'd write home to Mom about. Mom, I made a 14% rail today. It was great.
No, but he's the one in the lead, and that's what counts really at the end of the day, the scoreboard. You can hit 0% for like, and if you walk away, getting this far in QuakeCon, that's absolutely fine. But the previous 100 rocket, nearly about a minute to go, is what has pushed CHA1N into the lead here. And there's that overstack wheat. He's managed to get it up. Totems all around the map. And he's feeling good. He's pushing across. ZENAKU is trying to restrain this, spamming down from down below. CHA1N has to be an absolute beast to go up here, and he does it. Lovely little tech to crouch slide to get away, and actually hits some exit damage as well. So ZENAKU's on the ropes and doesn't have a lot to work with. CHA1N drops down behind.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that second rocket actually does do some damage, but off of the wall, and CHA1N ties this back up. Still manages to keep 2 of those totems up.
Yeah, that's huge.
And there's the overstack. Yeah, there's not really any totem management.
No, they're all just in
ZENAKU.
different places, so you can't sweep them up at once. And this is what we said about Blood Covenant, is that it's such a large map with so many random nooks and crannies that you can just hide these totems away. And we're seeing the consequence of that now, and CHA1N is playing the map fantastically. ZENAKU at the moment doesn't have a rail himself. He's the Doom. He's been bullied out of position, and that is worrying.
We're about to hit the halfway point. All of the several other players are out there watching what was going to transpire here. A lot on the line. ZENAKU did exit the QPL regular season in the 6th seed, I believe. CHA1N was
14th or something.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite that low, but it was pretty low, all things considered.
But 1-1, very, very methodical game. I mean, first game was 5-4. That second game ended 1-2. Got a level of patience and a big stack here from CHA1N. Feeling like he wants to make a move here.
Yeah. I haven't seen any level of overcommittal at the moment, but ZENAKU is just forfeiting position. He's worried. He's not being able to get on the map, and considering CHA1N had 1 mega after 2.5, 3 minutes, he's now on parity for pickup, so he's had full control these last 2.5 minutes since he regained that.
He wants that rail. ZENAKU's without rail.
Still.
It's being held off.
It's not often you see a Galena strangle a Doom, but that's exactly what's happening. A lovely rail from CHA1N there. That offsets ZENAKU, and CHA1N will have to now give up the mega as well. That's bad to miss that.
That was pretty bad. That puts him at a decent stack. He did still give up mega, but he avoided death.
Yeah, the only real blessing is you can see ZENAKU here looking for totems. He is fed up of going up this stacked Galena, so he's gone hunting for them now, and he's done exactly that. He's wiped them off the board.
I think he has to.
He does.
Oh my, right there. He could have shot the toe.
Oh, he has. He hit the toe the second time and the head the third time. So 2 out of 3 right there, crippling ZENAKU's stack. And CHA1N is doing a great job to hold control on the high ground, teaching everyone that you don't have to have mobility to play this map.
Such a wild series, just completely different pace than what we've seen throughout the day today.
Yeah,
but really goes to show just how Quake can be played so many different ways.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the more strategical mental battles. And they're both doing an admirable job to not make any sort of hiccups and let their opponents in.
Yeah, I want to take a quick look at damage right now. That's not super high. 1,500 for CHA1N, only about 1,200 for ZENAKU. 7% accuracy.
I just saw that. And that's
Mom, I'm sorry to report my accuracy has dropped from 14 to 7.
But that's honestly one of the reasons why ZENAKU is in this situation.
Yeah.
If he had hit 3 times more, 21%, he might be competitive. But without connecting with that on the distance, he can't do anything. He's finally connected with his second rail of the game so far, pushing it to 11% now.
Could only go up. Only go up.
One would hope.
Heavy's picked up. CHA1N has, how many, what has he got down for totems? Only 1 totem down right now. I think that was just such a huge moment in time during the game when he had that overstack up.
Yeah.
Like that allowed him to bring that frag back and tie it up.
Yeah, exactly. He could put loads of pressure on. And as much as all that pressure is there, it's still a 1-to-1 game, Wheat. And it's probably going to be the case that a 1 frag will settle this with 1.5 minutes to go. Whoever loses this, remember, will be going home. And they've both played phenomenally.
Yeah. I mean, each has a unique story here at QuakeCon, and it's pretty wild that they end up in what I would definitely say is a pretty nail-biting game.
Right.
no one wants to give up a forced error either and hand it to their opponent. They want to earn this, and they're both trying. I'll tell you what, CHA1N definitely earned it on that first game, and ZENAKU definitely earned it on that second game. But we are seeing a completely different style of game between these two now. Even from the defensive perspective, like,
yeah,
just hasn't been on display as much as it was in map 1 and 2.
No, and for the first time in 6 minutes or so, you know, CHA1N's been forced off the high ground. He's now back to the low ground. He doesn't have anything that resembles the overstack. So it's back to how we felt it the first few minutes. And this is where it's difficult for CHA1N because the Doom is just much quicker. And he's got a big bounce, and here we go. CHA1N is low. ZENAKU can push it. He knows he's
my
got a shot.
God, that is such a huge frag in the final 30 seconds. There's a big opportunity here. And now ZENAKU, how's he going to play this one? He's got to expect that there's going to be some aggression coming out for CHA1N. He doesn't have much of a choice. He's going to have to go in for it. LG coming out, huge damage to CHA1N, but he can't give up yet. His tournament life is on the line, 10 seconds remaining. ZENAKU does disengage, and there's the rail. You see the clenched, raised fist of ZENAKU knowing that he just secured another match and his life here at QuakeCon 2023 at the Quake World Championships. What a crazy and wild run there by CHA1N. He played such a unique and interesting style throughout this tournament, right? Dropped down pretty low, but fought honorably through that lower bracket. Unfortunately, it's ZENAKU who cuts his journey short.
It's heartbreaking because neither one of these guys deserve to go home. And you know, CHA1N said it in the interview, this is the best he's playing, and I completely agree. There's a side of CHA1N there we'd never seen before. Stability, calculatedness, and aggression, and all of the components were there for a victory. But he couldn't seal the deal, and that's what happens if you can't do that. ZENAKU also did an admirable job hitting 11% rail to keep himself in the duel, reaffirm control on the high ground, and that's the problem. The Doom just offers you way more prospect to just trap and get on top of your opponent because of that double jump, and that's exactly what we saw at the end. But incredible set.
We were in it, Flea. What do you think?
I was waiting for you to re-invite me to the conversation.
I mean, Dan would shut up, so
no, that was a 6 series. One of the closest ones I think we've seen for the entirety of the Quake World Championships. It really came down to the wire. This was, of course, the pivotal moment that rocket into rail. CHA1N slightly overextending back towards the blood pool, taking the rocket, then eating the rail.
Yeah.
Now, something I do have to really point out is how excellent CHA1N's usage of the plasma gun, the nail gun, was. He got so much mobility out of it, right? And you were talking about how, of course, right, you're significantly outmaneuvered when you're playing up against the Doomslayer, but he used that weapon so well. Now, of course, enough about CHA1N, because we are joined here by none other than ZENAKU himself. Zen, congratulations.
Thank you, mates. How'd you guys enjoy that game?
I mean, that was an intense game. I mean, I've never seen anyone probably win Blood Covenant with 10% rail, but you managed to set a record. And it was, I think we were talking about it, it was probably the most strategical and mental game that we've seen probably at this year's QuakeCon. And so I just want to know, how do you talk us through the process of that game and how you cope with that and the adjustments and the strategy shifts? Because particularly on map 1, you were under a lot of pressure as that Nyx, which you don't want to be under again in Anarchy. And then moving through to kind of map 2 and 3, you just couldn't seal the deal. So I just want to know how you kind of felt going through that set.
Yeah, I mean, I think CHA1N notoriously kind of does play quite...
Sorry, I'm not trying to touch your mouth. I want to hear you.
You know, notoriously he plays quite defensive, but I think on DM6 and in that moment, like, just because of VQ3 champs and I had the mobility advantage, I could kind of get away with that. But, and then a couple times, I think, like, did he have triple stack?
Yeah, at one point, 3 minutes in the middle,
And I think that's the one he, like, fragged me, because I thought...
That's right,
yeah. And no, I just got to pick your moments. To be honest, I don't really feel like I'm playing too crash hot, but got me through. So I'll be 10% rail. I mean, come on. I mean, can we get like someone else on here? Jesus.
It was definitely interesting shit. Now you're fighting from the lower bracket. Obviously, you'd want to try to make it through as far as you can up in the winners. But how are you feeling right now in terms of the games? And then, of course, your next matchup, I believe, is going to be versus Maxter, right?
Yeah. Or
I mean, Maxter has to play Buckster.
Oh,
yeah.
Or is it the case that that the upper bracket will fall down? No, I play Maxter again.
Yeah.
Well, the winner of this game.
Yes.
Yeah, feels good. And I think notoriously it's nice because you have the top 4 players. You got your your Razy, your Wenger, Rafa Kilson, and I think Maxter and I are kind of on the same page. So for me, it's like kind of a nice match to see kind of who's ahead in that, and just looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I just want to ask you about that because we were talking about it earlier that you came into the Quake Pro League immediately at a pretty high level, but you've clearly improved a lot. And we were talking about how it was at Iron Fist where you were like, oh, I did better than expected with your result at one point. But now, like, I feel like what you need to expect is at least top 5 because you're really near the top of that. So how has that been for you, the journey from like kind of an underdog coming into the league to now really being one of the best there is?
Yeah. It's exhausting because I feel like sometimes you think, man, what am I even doing? But no, I think just to see the process, and I think what's quite nice about it is like, not that you should take pride in being bad, but sometimes it's kind of nice because you're like, you see other people who also do the same thing, and you're like, hey, I'm pretty bad too. Maybe I can also be top 6. Or like, but it just does take 6 years. That's the other part of it.
I mean, you just mentioned like kind of all the top 4 players that you'd want to go up against, but what do you think, and we probably asked you this in the league, what do you think you need to break through to that, right? Because I think most of us look at you as someone that is there. So mentally, what do you see in your game that takes you from ZENAKU top 6 to, hey, why am I not in the final? Why am I not winning this?
It's funny because I've been kind of thinking about that even the last few days as well. And I think a large part of it is like how people practice, because obviously there's a particular thing that the top 4 players are doing with like how they're approaching the game, because anybody can spend time, but it's the fact that like, they're looking at something specifically. And I think a lot of them, to be honest, like all those top 4 guys, they're the hungriest. I mean, beyond the sake of playing and I'm playing lots of games, but these guys are like killer instinct. I mean, it's nice to see Wenger and Kilson in the practice area, and they're just like sweating it. Still getting mad over a map, and I'm thinking to myself, would I do that? Probably not, but they're doing it, so and it works for them.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, hey, congratulations. Anything else you'd like to say, fans out there? Anything at all?
Just really thanks to my girlfriend Kelly. She's helped me a lot. Just kind of
thanks, Kelly.
Thanks, Kelly.
Doing a solid, and I've got a lot of people praying for me this tournament, and just really share thanks to them. Also, my friend Dave Hippie. Hippie's down there, and he's been obviously just been really supportive for me. So appreciate that, guys.
Thanks, Hippie. Awesome. Well, good luck. Good luck here, keeping yourself alive here. We're very eager to see how far you can take it. Great games, and we'll see you again soon. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't go away. We do have one additional match coming up here. I don't know what it is, but
Buxter Maxter.
Oh, it is. Okay, Buxter Maxter. Why did you say it? Why did you do the outro, Dan? We'll be right back.
Because you'd be useless.